I disagree.
I disagree.
You don't have the right to my opinion.
I'm just trying to save the world, man.
I don't know, maybe.
It's legit.
Can I finish?
Can't fit. Hold on. Fine.
And now, disagree to disagree.
All right, let's do this. Welcome, everybody, to the inaugural episode of Disagree to Disagree. I am Jason Page, and with me is my good buddy, Brett Sowie. This episode is brought to you by Meat Sticks. Meat Sticks. If it's in your drink, you're in Wisconsin. And by Cheese Curds, the malt liquor of cheese. How's it going, Brett?
Going pretty good, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Excellent day.
You got some social media shout-outs you think we should probably do here at the top of the show?
Yeah, I
Or
suppose
Rebecca will
we
get
should
mad at us?
figure out how people can get a hold of us. Check us out on our podcast website, disagree2disagree.buzzsprout.com. And we're also hooked up at all the major social media links, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us at the D2D Podcast. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all the same, the D2D Podcast.
And we're also available anywhere people get their podcasts, right? On the Apple Podcast and the Spotify and all that stuff. So it's legit. So we should probably introduce ourselves
Yeah, I think we should probably do that. Let people know who we are.
and what we're up to.
Well, let me tell you guys about my friend Jason Page, a particular man with particular taste, a grating, opinionated person that is snobbier than a medieval aristocrat, that is a verbal machine gun capable of being snappier than a sleep-deprived alligator, who lectures me on camping trips about the proper procedures when loading my rucksack, always constantly reassuring me of the integrity and reliability of the mainstream media. Someone who I wish you guys could all see when we talk, because he inspired Jim Henson to have Muppets slowly turn their head to the camera whenever something is said that he finds disgustingly surprising and he disagrees with vehemently. And I got to be honest with you, I wouldn't have to interrupt him every 5 seconds if he was capable of not losing his train of thought, because the whole time he is searching for an obnoxious comeback. A highfalutin artist that in 2016 was with her, which is not surprising due to the fact that he works in academia. Oh, sorry, Jason. Higher education. My overbearing, super loud, liberal, smart aleck friend that I care about very much, who I appreciate and can have a conversation with over a beer. Jason Page.
Well, that's you've really nailed my Achilles heel, Brett, because I have a quick wit, but I have the memory of a goldfish. So I gotta jump in. I gotta sound smart, and I gotta get out. And you're like a boulder that rolls downhill and just gains steam as you go. So
You're not wrong.
all right. Well, I get to introduce you now, right?
Yeah, I guess you do.
All right. Well, let me tell you about my friend, Brett Sowie. This is a man who sports InfoWars merch. He will drink coffee while eating nachos. He is a conservative with a penchant for counterculture rock and roll.
That's true.
He's full of glorious incongruities. He is exasperating, he is entertaining, and he is occasionally enlightening. Over the years, we have had wide-ranging conversations about subjects such as the melting temperature of steel, the existence of Bigfoot, and the plandemic, to name a few. I could not disagree with him more, and yet I love him. He has a big heart and an open mind. The mind is probably too open. The strangest stuff gets in there. But we have a good, solid friendship. We have worked together. We have played together. We have made delicious food together. A man with a taste for expensive meat and cheap beer, my friend most likely to have a bug-out bag, Brett Sowie.
Oh, I'm so glad that you painted a very accurate picture of me for everyone. Now I'm in this little box and everyone knows how they can frame me, and they'll know me because I believe in the hairy man that runs around in the woods while sporting merch from InfoWars.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an accurate portrayal.
Oh, okay. All right. If you say so, pal. Apparently this is how
okay.
you view me.
Rebut.
Well, I I definitely have listened to InfoWars, that's for sure, but I don't think that it makes me any more of a fan of Alex Jones than it does when I listen to CNN and listen to Don Lemon. I think that's just another source of information that I like to hear and absorb just as much as I like to hear and absorb things in the mainstream. You're right in that my mind is a little bit too open. It's kind of like a house party. Everybody's invited as long as you pay $5 at the door. You get to come on in and hang out. You're probably right on that. And I can probably be a little bit too open-minded, but I have found that it's served me in life in order to better understand people that I disagree with, to invite them in and have a conversation with them, figuratively speaking, of course, and learning about how other people think and operate and come to their own conclusions, because it helps me analyze my own and look at my own so that I can figure out what I really think and believe. So I think you were pretty good with some of your statements. They were funny, though. I love them.
Yeah, I don't have much disagreement with what you said about me. I was with her. I mean, come on, dumpster fire Trump was the alternative. And I am snobbier than, what did you say?
Medieval aristocrat.
Medieval aristocrat,
You
yeah.
are, you can be loud and overbearing.
That's my default mode, is loud and overbearing. But I would, just to frame myself for a second, I would define myself as a pragmatic progressive. I'm definitely left of center, but I'm not so dogmatic about it that I can't see across the red-blue divide to good ideas on the other side. I like to just think that I am practical in my approach to things, and like you, try to be open-minded. And I think that kind of brings us to the reason why we're sitting here and talking today, why we think that two middle-aged, white, cisgendered males should enter the old zeitgeist, as it were. What better cultural moment is there, really, for folks like us? But that said, I think that we have great conversations, and oftentimes they're conversations that I don't see anywhere else, and I think that we can help model that.
Well, we've talked about this a lot, of how there's this sort of out there in the mainstream media and in general where people get most of their knowledge. There's no discourse. It's everyone just kind of bitching at each other and just arguing loudly. Nothing ever really comes to any conclusion. Everything solved. And we just are the kind of people where we like to learn how to walk in another person's shoes, learn what they're all about, because that helps us to be better informed and to better understand each other, because we have such different ideologies, especially in the political spectrum.
Yeah, and it's not like we're talking about we're coming together and agreeing.
Oh, yeah, no, not at all. Like, this is about it's not an instructional video, but this is sort of representative of how we have conversations. We still disagree with each other, generally after conversations, but we also find points where we agree and we still care about each other.
Well, and we also don't need to own the other person's opinion.
One question that I had for you is what's the numbers of how much you think that we agree or disagree? Do you have, in your mind?
I think we disagree 16.7643% of the time.
Wow, you got the algorithms running there.
I have all of the charts and the maps and the supercomputers just crunching numbers like you wouldn't believe. And it is 16.7634 or whatever I said,
Wow. You really nailed it.
I have. But that means, that there's this large majority of the time that we agree.
Yeah.
We agree. We like beer and we like meat and we think things are funny and we like certain art and we like, just being in nature. There's all kinds of things that we agree on, and our culture is just in a pitched battle between the right and the left on just the disagreements.
Yeah.
And everybody needs to win the disagreement. They can't discuss and just be okay with a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
Without having to come to blows. And so, not to belabor it, but that's kind of why we decided to do this.
Yeah.
because we don't see this type of conversation elsewhere, and I feel like it could be useful, and I feel like I wish I heard this conversation elsewhere.
I agree. And hence the reason why I'm here.
All right. Well, should we get off our self-important soapbox and get down to the
Yeah, I would like to climb down. I need a ladder, though.
nitpick?
I've been up on this soapbox a little high. It's
Yeah,
a
well,
little dizzying up here.
That's because you're short.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like Tom Cruise on the movie set. I need my Apple box.
I know we took some publicity photos, and Brett wants me to Photoshop myself lower in them.
I just think we need to be at eye level.
Well, you should have thought about that and got up on your Apple box, Tom.
I'll have the guys bring it next time.
All right. So we're both middle-aged white guys from the middle of the Middle West. We're sitting here in Wisconsin, which is a swing state. I am recently relocated from Duluth, Minnesota. So it's interesting to me to be in this political climate. We live about an hour, 45 minutes
About that.
away from each other. Just driving across rural Minnesota,
Yeah, you slipped up there. You can tell where you're from.
just driving across rural Wisconsin. Do you want to tell folks what it's like to drive across rural Wisconsin to come visit me here?
When coming up to visit you, it's like you said, an hour and 45-minute drive. So it's a little long, and you kind of, look around. Obviously, you keep your eyes on the road. But I'm coming up here, there's just Trump signs everywhere. And it feels a lot like how 2016 did when we met in Duluth, Minnesota. And you remember what it was like up there, Duluth versus Superior. And when I was coming up here, it has that same feeling again, where I'd only see a few Biden signs here and there. I think the first time that I came up here, I could count on one hand until I got about a mile and a half from your place. And I finally saw Biden signs, which isn't surprising coming into Oshkosh. Versus this time now coming up, there were definitely more Biden signs that I saw. It was really strange. It was almost like after we talked about it, the universe said, "Oh, you didn't see enough Biden signs? Well, here, let me sprinkle a few more in there."
I agree. I think that since last time we had this conversation, I see many more Biden signs, which I, from my perspective, find very encouraging. Last time around, you could tell. I mean, Duluth and Superior are just across a bridge at the head of Lake Superior, and Duluth is a very progressive city in a pretty progressive state. Superior is more the working class city, and I lived in Duluth and I worked in Superior, and so it was the tale of two cities. Going from one environment, a very politically progressive
really
environment, over to a place that was just peppered with Trump signs everywhere you looked, and for a long time, this political season, it felt the same way. And just recently, I feel more encouraged. They show these polls where sometimes Biden's got as much as a 10-point lead in Wisconsin, and I don't believe that it's that wide. But I do feel like he is perhaps pulling away here.
Yeah, the polls to me, and again, it's just like the ride coming up here. It is disproportionately Trump signs to Biden signs, and that's why I see 2016, because the polls, they feel the same way. If you're on the ground, you see one thing, and then what you hear on the news or comedians pretending to be news people, that Trump is double digits behind. And I remember in 2016, I believe it was CNN, they're like all the other networks, they follow all the candidates around and they see everything. And there was a discussion, and they were telling people that they see a lot of Trump signs out there and they see a lot of people at the rallies. And the feeling on the ground then is the same now. It feels like the polls aren't getting it right still. And I don't know how that's possible. How do they not learn their lesson from 2016? It's very odd and strange to me.
Yeah, I wonder though, because once you get into a more metro type area, not that Oshkosh is a metro, but the city itself, I would say, has more Biden signs than Trump signs. But when you are in rural Wisconsin, that is Trumplandia, we're not in Milwaukee, we're not in Madison. Like that's where the Democratic votes are going to get run up. So I'm hoping that anecdotally, like it at least visually kind of looks like 2016, but I think, 2016 was a razor thin margin for Trump in Wisconsin. So it doesn't have to go back much the other way for him not to get it. And it does feel a little more optimistic for Biden, although I'm not, I'm not ready to just call the state. I do feel like, in Minnesota, my vote wasn't worth as much as it is here in Wisconsin. I feel like it's my duty to make sure that Wisconsin goes blue. Whereas in Minnesota, it's like it's always going blue.
Yeah, and it's strange how Wisconsin's being sort of framed and analyzed as a swing state now. But again, I keep coming back to the polls. There was a poll by a company called Cloud Research, I believe, and out of that poll, about 10% of Trump supporters in polls typically won't even admit that they're Trump supporters. And I think that the reason is for that is they feel like that they could lose their jobs or be ostracized and doxxed. And so they just don't want to reveal to people why that, or they don't want to reveal to people that they are Trump supporters.
Why are so many people ashamed of this man yet willing to vote for him?
I think the media and how things are represented or presented about being a Trump supporter are so negative that they want to be part of the rest of the group, but they also want to be themselves. And so many people are vilified for being Trump supporters, big time, just because people disagree with Trump as a person and as a politician. So they take that, how they feel about Trump, and then they project it onto the Trump supporter. And it's sort of like, I'm blaming you. And therefore, because I can't see Trump, I'm just going to take that and I'm going to put that on you. And I think that's one of the reasons. There's many people that I know through our circle of friends and through our, my own, where at work, people are kind of, hey, what do you think about an election? And some of them will say they're Trump supporters, but they won't tell anybody else. And I can't explain the exact reasoning, but it sort of goes along with that negative reaction, that visceral emotion of hatred of Trump, putting and projecting that on a Trump supporter.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm sure there is that. And so Trump supporters have that side of the sort of the spectrum of support. But then on the other side of that, Trump is more of a cult figure than any politician I can remember, in the sense that his followers just dress themselves in the same stuff. They all wear the same hat. They all have the same big flags. I mean, it's an idolization of this guy who is just basically a salesman merchandising stuff, and they all just lap it up. And so I think when people see that version of the Trump supporter, and they see it a lot at rallies and people are interviewing that Trump supporter, I think that's then the perception of all the Trump supporters. And you're saying that that's why there's that segment of people who they just don't want to be identified with that because they don't have that amount of vitriol or hate for the other side, but they're not turned off or they're ideologically incompatible with the option.
I don't think it's sort of an equivalent of worshiping the golden calf. I think...
No. It's more like being under the spell of Charlie Manson.
Here's the thing, is that there's always been, and there always will be, a cult of personality surrounding major politicians. There always has in history, and there always will be going forward, regardless of which side of the aisle on. And to which degree it goes, it's hard for me to kind of quantify on how some people can be so negative to people who follow Trump and yet think that they're buying into this, bravado or gravitas that he carries with him. I remember the days when he was on WWE, and I almost look back on that now and I'm like, whoa, he's kind of grooming himself for the public. And then here came The Apprentice, and he has this ability to sort of rally people around them. And I think every politician, regardless of ideology or political affiliation, there is going to be that, and there always will. It's just what is the people's reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my greater point is People idolize and revere the Kennedys or Obama, but they're not all dressed in the same thing. Like I feel like that kind of takes it to another level of, you can call it a club, you can call it a cult, but it's definitely, you're a member of it, you're a member of it, and you're displaying that you're a member of it.
Yeah. When we were driving around, we would see like those little pop-up stations, the selling the Trump merch.
The flags, man, the flags, all of the flags. Trump people love flags. And, they took down the one. I ran to Walmart today to pick up an audio cable, and I went by that pop-up store, and they had taken down, thank God, the flag where he was Rambo and had the machine gun.
I love that one.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
Because it's funny. It's so ridiculous. It's funny. And that's one thing that really surprises me about Trump supporters is how much they buy into the satire of Donald Trump. And liberals take that as they're believing that Donald Trump is the idol of our time. He's the Antichrist.
I mean, it would be funny, and it would be like a WWE sideshow if it wasn't so serious, because it is satire or, tragedy.
So, Jason, you're originally from Minnesota, and I'm a Wisconsinite. I'm from here. And when I lived in Minnesota, I kind of always thought of it as a pretty solid blue state, where now Wisconsin is a swing state, which seems a little bit odd. What's it like for you, having come from Minnesota that has been pretty consistent, especially in national elections, coming to a place like Wisconsin?
Not to speak ill of my new brethren. Minnesota is a very good government state. You know what to expect there. I came from a bit more of a metro. I mean, Duluth isn't a huge city, but the Duluth Superior area, that's about 175,000 people in that metro area. So, there's arts, there's culture. It's a progressive place. And coming here, it's much more rural. It's much more blue collar. And it's much more, it feels more to me like Trump land. And I gotta say, having been here for a year plus now, watching like the news cycle, the local news cycle, Wisconsin is lucky that Florida exists.
I thought there was a compliment coming.
I think that Florida man could very easily be Wisconsin man.
So we're Florida North then, huh?
Yeah. So it's a little kooky here, but it's not a bad kooky. It's just like a nice Midwestern thing, but it's a little more rural than I'm used to, and it's a little more conservative than I'm used to. And when you're in a rural area, there's more opportunity for people to be eccentric.
Interesting. I mean, it's funny that you think of this place as rural. I guess that makes sense. But you kind of are like alluding to how conservative we are. And I've always, having grown up and lived in Wisconsin, I've always thought of this place as very blue. But it's funny when looking back on the research in my lifetime on the planet Earth, there have been 4 Democrat Republicans, and then there have been 4 Democrat governors, and there have been 4 Republican governors.
In your lifetime?
Yeah, in my lifetime. But I've always had this perception of this state being typically blue with little pockets of red here and there. And it probably is because I grew up so close to Madison, and Milwaukee wasn't far off, and those TV stations tend to be sort of broadcast, as opposed to some of my friends who I met later in life, and they live further north, and they're like, no, like this is a very conservative state. And in my mind growing up, it was never like that. And so now to think of us as a swing state, it's sort of like, whoa, again, like in 2016. And I'm now thinking, was there or is there a segment of the Wisconsin population just hasn't been voting? And now all of a sudden Donald Trump comes into view and people start coming out of the woodwork for a place that I always thought was Democrat, but is now voting Republican, at least in a national sense.
Well, and I think Wisconsin was very particular microcosm of what went wrong for Hillary Clinton in 2016. You know, she didn't come here. Trump came here. He was very energizing to his base. She was not very energizing to her base, and it was won in the margins. You know, we're a pretty evenly divided country, and it was won in the margins. And from an outsider's perspective, at least for sort of my adult political conscious awareness of Wisconsin, it always felt like it was a Republican legislator and a Republican governor, and they were always cutting this, that, and the other thing, and there were always articles about the tale of two governors, you know, the Minnesota rebound from the recession and the Wisconsin rebound, and so it always felt like a Republican state locally that somehow went Democrat nationally.
Yeah, but that's sort of like how I think of Minnesota is largely because of the Twin Cities. You know, the larger metro areas sort of kind of dictate a lot of the voting because of the higher density population. And Wisconsin, I don't know why that is. Because again, I've always thought of it as a blue state, and yet now it seems probably it's been more red than I gave it credit for, and that's weird for somebody who grew up in Wisconsin and, you know, celebrates being a Wisconsinite.
But don't you like that? I mean, your team red.
Yeah, but it's sort of like my reality is smashed now. Like, I kind of thought I was the outsider growing up. I was like, well, if all you guys are liberals, I'm going to be conservative then, just to be different.
Oh, now that you're in the club, you don't like the club?
Yeah, and maybe, you know, sometimes you got to change it up, Jason. You got to go to different clubs. You can't keep listening to the same tunes all night.
I got it. You need to be the underdog. The outsider.
Maybe.
The maverick.
Maybe that's probably one thing to describe me as, at least my political views. I think of myself as believing in that individualism, that rugged individual and freedom and liberty. And part of that is sort of a rebellious attitude that sort of embodies the American spirit. And I've always kind of bought into that. And it's kind of ingrained in my DNA is how I was raised and where I grew up, and, you know, being in the woods and hunting and fishing and camping and working outside and doing stuff that, not to say that, you know, liberals can't find that in those same things and for their own political ideology and beliefs. But for me, it was that rugged individualism, and that kind of made me who I am. So now, thinking that I was a rebel this whole time and looking at it historically, it's just really funny to me. And now we're a swing state, and here we go. Buckle up, buckaroos.
You'll always be a rebel to me, Brett.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Buckle up, buckaroos is right. Oh my God. So can we? I don't even want to. I don't even want to, but we should discuss the dumpster fire of a debate we watched last night.
Wow. I'm exhausted from that, and I love those things. I love debate. Debates are like the Super Bowl for me during an election cycle, literally on the same level.
Especially the first debate, but yeah, exhausting.
I guess we'll have to do it, buddy.
If we must.
I know, right? I feel like it's going to be a short conversation, that whole dog and pony show. I'm irritated with that on so many levels, and I feel like that it just is what it is. And you could sit there and you could try to say one side did this, one side did that, but at the end of the day, one side did do some very disgraceful things, and I think America is just the facepalm emoji today. I never in my life have I seen somebody be so disrespectful of the office he holds, of the debate format in which he's agreed to everybody involved other than him. I mean, he's just a reprehensible human being, and it was on full display last night. It was such a dumpster fire. It makes me so mad and so sad, and I don't really even have a lot of words for it. I'm taken aback by the levels, the depths to which this man will sink. In my mind, it feels like there's plenty of things to point out all around, but when you get down to it, everyone's just going to talk about how the president was acting during the debate, how he structured it. I remember when we were watching this, and I think we talked about this, was within like the first 5-10 minutes, we kind of looked at each other and were like, oh, if Trump can stay like this, this could be a long night for Biden. And then I feel like around the 10 or 12 minute mark, it like all the wheels just started coming off the caboose.
It was more like the 5-minute mark. He made it through one question without interrupting.
It was insane.
It was the poorest part of Biden's performance. He was stumbling right out of the gate, and it was very worrisome until it just became Trump being a bully and jumping in and just being the child that he is. This narcissistic man-child who has no regard for you, me, or anybody else. I just don't understand at this point how, as a human being with a heart and a mind, you can vote for him.
I would say that this is the first time that I'm legitimately so upset because I feel like I'm kind of being penned and put in a position now where I'm voting more against someone than I am voting for more someone. I feel a little bit disappointed. I knew what the strategy was, and being aggressive, staying on top of him, try to get him to flip, try to get him to stumble, control the conversation, make it yours. I get that strategy, but the whole time when I'm sitting there watching that debate with you, the only thing I'm thinking in my head is like, bro, just ease up off the gas. Seriously, just ease up and you'll be fine. And I felt like the bar was set so low for Joe Biden and Trump's was so high. And I feel like Joe Biden just kind of came over that bar, but Trump came so far below.
Trump had a high bar?
In order for him to try to have to get over.
They both had very low bars. Come on.
What I feel like Trump really had to come out and make a statement, make a move in this, according to the polling, because he's behind in the polling, right? That he had to really kind of make a move in this debate. And Joe Biden just had to get through it. Well, he just had to get through it.
He made a move, his one move, and it's the dick move.
And by the whole interrupting thing, I felt that that's when it started to get real out of bounds for me. It got really out of bounds. And a part of me is just kind of like standing up, clapping, going, all right, let's get it on. This is what we got. This is what we're going to get. And let's just plow through it. And then now, after it all happened, I just feel like it was just exhausting. It was just really, really exhausting.
Yeah.
And to me, Trump had an opportunity and he fumbled it. Or Biden had a chance to fumble and Trump just didn't do anything. Either way, how you slice it, I feel like Trump had an opportunity. He effed it up and Biden skirted by because he tried to be the bigger man in the whole debate. I'll give him credit for that. I felt like that was there. It was just a disappointment, really. And this is the first time, as someone who has stated previously, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. I'm still leaning that way right now if I had to make a choice, but I feel so begrudged about it. I feel just irritated and I feel let down. He had an opportunity to prove all the disbelievers wrong, and all he did was just play into their hands. And I can't understand why by this point, after being a president almost 4 years, you don't just kind of settle down just a little bit. Just settle down just a little bit, and he can't do it.
He doesn't change, and everybody always thinks he's going to, and he doesn't. And he's so degraded the office. He's so besmirched our reputation. He is just the divider in chief. And to see the juvenile, narcissistic display that he put on last night, you just know that he lives in a bubble where he's never contradicted, and he can't handle himself. He is not up to the job. Anybody that is that keyed up is not up to the job of President of the United States. A firmer, calmer hand needs to be there. And and I think I speak for a lot of the country, it's exhausting. And last night was just like, I can't watch any more of this. I am done. Like, if this is what this is, please, can we just go into a coma until November 3rd? Because it's only going to get uglier from here.
And they have the next debate. It's going to be a town hall format.
Which, we talked a little bit about this before we got on air, and I don't think that format is going to do Trump any favors.
If Trump does what he did in this moderated debate, and he does this to in quotations, potential voter a question and he is like that, it's game over. It literally is game over. I mean, there's going to be people that are going to vote for him regardless. And then there's going to be people who are, voting based on policy. And then there are going to be people that are voting. They're like, this is what and you don't want it. And then you're going to have people who I'm concerned is going to be me, where I'm going to be like, this is stupid.
I've given up thinking that there are game over moments for this guy. I mean, calling John McCain not a war hero, saying he can grab women by the pussy. These are things that I thought would have been game over. His performance opposite Putin in Helsinki, that is game over. And yet people stick by him. He has his numbers. The thing that is the craziest about 2020 is the only thing that is steady is like this 7-point Biden lead. Nothing seems to change anybody's mind. I don't believe there is anybody left that is truly undecided, that is actually going to vote.
It really seems to be getting pitched that way, isn't it? That there's still there's this big undecided voter gap. You've heard numbers from like 7% up to 14% undecided voters, and that's a pretty wide gap in what's largely considered a very close election to begin with. And some of the issues that you pointed out there, and just in the beginning of that, particular statement there, those are a lot of things that you threw out there, and some of them can be contended with. Some of them can be like, you kind of shrug and go, okay. I think at the end of the day, it's starting to become so stark and clear. And unless Trump brings it back around, I feel there's going to be a huge segment of voters. They're going to be like, dang it, I don't want to, but I'm going to vote for him. And I just can't say it enough. It was a letdown, the whole thing. I think there's plenty of blame to go around. This is, in my mind, I know how you feel. It's totally Trump's fault. I think there was blame to go all around. I think all three people that were up there, they signed up for this. This is what they chose to do, and they all failed on their own particular levels in their own ways, and with little minor successes here and there. But the whole totality, or the entirety of that moment, was those three, and that's what we had to watch and deal with. I felt like if I was sitting home alone, I would get through 30 minutes of it and I'd be like, I'm just going to catch the rest tomorrow in the clips on the news and just do some articles and just go with that. But because, we want to talk about this stuff and we like talking about this stuff together, I sat through it.
Yeah, I just fundamentally disagree. There were two honest brokers up on that stage and one that was completely disregarding everything that was supposed to go down. And he ran roughshod over Joe Biden, which was a huge favor to Joe Biden because Joe Biden didn't have a chance to screw up. And it actually showed me that he can be peppered with somebody going, hey, and he can still plow through something. So if anybody had nagging worries about his mental abilities, I think the one thing that I took away from last night was, oh yeah, Joe's, I have my worries, and he was unflappable enough to clear that hurdle for me, and I suspect a lot of people.
Yeah, I as someone who has called into question as a voter his acuity level in whatever, however it's termed. There's a lot of different terms. We don't need to go down the list, but I would agree that Biden held his own. I don't think he was as good as you see it through your particular tinted lenses.
I don't think he was good at all.
But I think, again, this is why I said the bar for him was so low, and he, in my mind, he just barely got over the top. And I feel like the only reason that it kind of got over him, that low bar, is because he tried to be a little bit of the bigger man and just do that. He got sucked into it. He said certain things in the beginning, especially, that kind of got the fireworks going about the family stuff. And Trump fell into that and did the same thing. And the moderator, I really honestly felt like going into it, Chris Wallace historically was the best political debate moderator in my generation. I had really high hopes for him. He came into this when he gave everybody the public list. This is the topics we're going to talk about. I'm going to be as invisible as possible. That didn't happen. And I think he was forced into it. Granted, he got forced into it, But really, if anybody else was sitting in his shoes, what would you do? Do you think anybody else would do any better? And I don't think you could. And
No, because Trump wasn't playing by the rules.
And I know everybody gets back to that point.
There's a moderator for a reason, and there are ground rules for a reason. And
that's why I was disappointed.
And I think, if anything, this shows that the rules need to be changed. At the very least, the moderator needs to have 2 kill switches for microphones, and to just
that's one of the options being floated around right now.
Well, and it should be. It should be.
One of the other options that are being floated around is to have them separated and do 30-minute interviews with the debate questioner separately. And then you go an in-depth interview with each. There's no opportunity to interrupt the other one. They get posed a bunch of questions. They get to say what they say, because that's really what people think debates are. This person says their thing. This person says their thing. And then you come out of it and you figure out what it is. Well, fine. Let's just separate them. Otherwise, the kill switch on the mic. Otherwise, Trump's just going to have to grow up. That's the problem that I have with this. He needed to grow up, and that's why I'm so disappointed. He had an opportunity to prove everybody wrong, and he got sucked into it.
Yeah, I don't know if he sucked into anything. I think that was the plan, to go on the attack. I mean, even the lead up to it, everybody was saying Trump's going to come in and rattle his cage. He's going to be personal. He's going to go after his son. And he did exactly that. He was exactly the pig in
There was
shit.
blood and water, and I think he just got his great white shark eyes, like they got really big, right? Like that shark in was it a shark's tail? And he smelled blood in the water, and he just kept going. And again, I can't say this enough, bro. Just ease up off on the gas. You would have been fine if you would have been like how you were in the first 5-10 minutes in my mind, and just ease off and let Biden just give him enough rope, or let him make his own mistake, basically. Okay. And he didn't do that. And that's why this was so disappointing. It got off the rails.
It was a huge tactical error on Trump's point. I mean, all he had
Agreed.
to do was let Biden talk. And that was the one thing he did not do.
Right? Isn't that weird?
He constantly undermines himself. It's one of his.
I would agree with that.
It's one of his most endearing traits. I don't know.
It's your favorite thing about him, isn't it, Jason?
No, my favorite thing about him is the fact that he calls people and acts as that guy John, his own publicist. That is my favorite thing about him. But yeah, he's a quirky dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's pretty universal that I don't think the needle is going to move really either way, except probably more for me. And then I'm so disappointed right now, and I'm hoping that he can bring it back around. My confidence in that isn't that great, but yeah, that just,
it was a dumpster fire.
I'm really hoping that things get turned around, but at this point, let's be honest. Do you really think that the needle moved for any voters here? No.
No.
I think the people that weren't against them, they're not going to change. The people that are for them either totally are like, oh, I guess we're with this guy, but I don't really want to be. And the undecided voters that are out there, that mysterious segment of the voting population right now, I don't think the needle moves for them at all.
No.
And if it did, I don't think it, yeah.
No. And that's why I feel like it's just like, oh my God, can we just get over with it already? Because everybody has already made up the decision, and it's just uglier and uglier and uglier, and everybody's sick of it. And
It'll be interesting to see.
And here we are unpacking it.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of really was. Here's my thing. I had high expectations. I was really, really hoping for, fireworks for sure, but not that. That to me wasn't, and I don't know if that's my fault. Maybe I should have just expected it to be that way.
Yeah, I really don't have anything more to say about it.
In next debate, it's going to be the town hall format. It'll be interesting to see what happens in that. He can't pull what he did in that debate. And now they're floating around not doing other debates. Campaign, I believe Biden's campaign, and some people are saying, why bother? And Trump's campaign is saying, well, now you're pulling out because you're scared.
I think that's Trump's campaign talking back to themselves.
Just kind of looking in the mirror.
Well, I think it's all coming from the Trump campaign. I think Biden is fully...
He's fully in. He's going to do it.
Continue doing it.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, I mean, the next one is...
town hall.
It's a town hall, and...
to me, that's going to be a game over if he does.
Well, I just think that the empathy gap between these two personalities, because it's just going to be on full display. Trump does not do well talking to John Q. Public. Like it's just not.
There's a lot of people that think he does, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
He doesn't engage them as people because he's a sociopath who doesn't see them as people. He often, the last time he did that town hall, was it George Stephanopoulos hosted town hall?
Are you talking about back in 2016?
No, like a month ago.
A month ago? For the COVID?
Yeah, there were just a few people in the audience, and they were all wearing masks, and he was just uniquely bad at that, And if that's the next debate, man.
Yeah, it'll be. There's so many things there that I don't quite think he's a sociopath, but I don't think he's very good at displaying the empathy that you're ascribing to. I would agree with that, but at the same time, there's been families that have lost loved ones, and they've expressed how empathetic he was, but I guess there's a segment that believes it just doesn't come across as very genuine. And when you have this town hall format, you really have to find a connection with that person in the audience, and it comes across to everyone else. And that'll be a real challenge for him to do that. I think Biden is known to be good at something like that. He has his moments. Let's be honest.
He's almost too good at it. He's a little touchy-feely about it.
He's a walking meme. Let's be honest here. And so, it'll be interesting going in. But to me, if it ends up being just a real poop storm, I don't think that there's going to be a third debate. And the writing is probably on the wall at that point. And it sort of saddens me as someone who's voted for him that it got to a point where now there are some things that I have a problem with that I'm kind of like, I have to justify them now to the people around me. And it makes it difficult and it's challenging. And I think if anybody's in the position that I am in that, it's best just to listen. Just listen to the other person that's talking to you that you've probably had a disagreement with in this. Like with you, I'm just going to listen. I know what I saw. I don't need to really say anything at the moment. Let me hear what you have to say.
It's very big of you, Brad. Because most of what I had to say was not very nice.
No. and it's because of my disappointment that I get it. And it doesn't mean that I totally agree with everything that you're saying, and I'm not going to sit here and try to justify anything. In my mind, I can't really justify it because there's some things I had a problem with. There was points in there where I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that's good. But he wouldn't ease up, and that did not translate well at all.
You know what I am looking forward to?
What's that?
The vice presidential debate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get some chocolate and vanilla.
Oh. Okay, Jason, if that's what we're going to be getting, all right. I'm in.
No, I just think that the contrast in personality and style between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence is, it's as big probably as the difference in tone and style.
I think that one's going to play out how everyone thinks that it's going to play out. Kamala will be a little bit more aggressive. Mike Pence will be very straight, standing up tall, and be a little bit wooden. I think it'll come across. And yeah, I think that one's going to go out pretty much how everybody thinks it will. And it'll just be in their delivery and if people buy it. But yeah, I think that's going to go how we think it is.
She is going to own him.
I don't know if she's going to own him, but I think the styles, they're just going to happen. The way that they're going to go about it, as everyone thinks it's going to go, it will. I'm not going to predict the outcome because at this point, I'm not predicting anything right now. I'm not. My crystal ball is out of order. There's nothing I can predict. I'm just going to sit back, eat my popcorn, enjoy the ride, enjoy talking to you about it, and that's going to be the fun part.
Well, I mean, that's kind of how this whole thing got started, was not being able to predict. I mean, maybe a good way to end this episode is to talk about the 2016 election night, where you came over to my house when we were both living in Duluth, and we're political guys. It's a big night for us.
Yeah.
But the prevailing wisdom was that Hillary was going to win.
Yeah.
And I thought,
I was sure, but I wasn't confident, if that makes any sense.
Sure, but you weren't confident about her or Trump?
Trump winning.
Oh, okay. Well, to me, you did not display that. I felt
kind of going in the lion's den, wasn't I?
I felt like you were like being a big, gracious, you were going to come in there and lose in front of me, you know, and I was going to gloat. And we watched that slow moving, you know, nightmare unfold.
And there was some states that I called, you know, that did happen, and then that's when the tide started to turn a little bit, and didn't quite go the way that
All right, I'm
we were
trying
expecting.
I'm trying to tell a story about you and me having a nice time, bipartisan time, and you're trying to win. So please stop that, and let me.
I'm sorry, pal. Go ahead.
Let me be gracious.
Yeah. Okay.
So we watched, and it became apparent that this wasn't going to happen, you know, the way that we thought it was going to go down. And when Trump won, a part of me just broke inside. Like, I was like, I don't know this country. I was just so, and you were,
Yeah, I sensed that.
you were very cool about it. And we realized then that, you know, like, we have this ability to completely disagree, but to still be deep friends, even when, you know, like, somebody gets an unexpected comeuppance or somebody gets an unexpected victory and it's to the detriment of the other, you know? So anyway,
No, totally. I totally agree with that.
I was a broken man. I've been a broken man ever since then. I saw my uncle, who is a prepper, got the Trump gear at my grandfather's funeral, and he said to me behind his mask, "How'd you get all that gray hair?" And from behind my mask, I said, "Trump." And we're not talking about it anymore today because it's Grandpa's funeral.
That seems like that'd be a good policy to have there, for
I know.
sure, pal.
I
But I remember that night as well. It was, I definitely was coming in there. I was hoping that Trump was going to get in unless there was any shenanigans, and it didn't go that way. And I'm not going to lie, you know, I went outside and I froze in midair, and the 80s song kicked in the background, and hey, 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 you know, like totally at the end of the movie, dude.
You froze in midair, and my heart froze.
A lot of freezing going on.
You got a better outcome though.
It happened. I mean, I felt bad that you felt bad because you're my friend, but there was a little moment in there. But now we'll just see where things go. I just enjoy the fact that we can talk about this. We can agree on things. We can disagree on things. And at the end of the day, there isn't the animosity out there that like how it's really been for the last 4 years. And my advice is for people, when you're in a situation, just listen to the other person. And I think that's going to help get people through a little bit of this. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen a little bit.
I'm sorry, I was listening.
That's the dead air that we, yeah.
But that was dead
so
air.
that was a
That
good
was dead air for comedic effect.
You're right. You're
I
right.
held it just the right amount of. It's music. It's music, Brett.
Yeah.
Music. Sometimes an
The
absence.
negative space.
Sometimes an absence is a presence.
Ooh, that's
All right.
deep.
So we should probably we're trying to sign off. Should we sign off?
Yeah. So yeah, let's sign up. This was a good conversation, dude. Look forward to the town meeting, and we'll see how the next one goes.
Yeah. So tune in next time. Same Brett time. Same Jason channel.
Goodbye, Jason.
Goodbye, Brett.